Welcome to Sell Like You, the ultimate sales podcast that will teach you how to make sales your superpower, transform your mindset, and in doing so, explode your sales beyond your wildest dreams. I'm Harriet Meller, and over the last 17 years, I've helped hundreds of top companies around the world, including my own, make more money and qualify more leads using simple strategies that work. In this podcast, you'll learn how I generated over 10 million in annual sales, along with the sales techniques, processes, and tools that will work for you to generate more dream-aligned clients and scale your business beyond what you thought was possible. If you're sick of the boring, outdated, and pushy sales tactics of the past, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
I think LinkedIn has become a bit like Marmite, or if you're in Australia, Vegemite. You either love it or you hate it. And I think there is so much emphasis on LinkedIn becoming Facebook and what can we post and what can't we post. And people look at LinkedIn differently to they do in other social media platforms, and they should. It is different. But it's really interesting. I get totally split teams and split feedback, split opinions on the platform, which I love because I get to hear every side of the story. And I also get to sell them into why I believe LinkedIn is such an incredible platform to build both your personal brand, business brand as well, and to generate sales and to generate conversations and to generate opportunities. And so in this episode, I want to take you on a little bit of a LinkedIn journey to see if I can help sway you or change your mind on LinkedIn. If you're already off the fence, you're on the other side, or if you are on there, but you're not yet making the most of the platform. So first off, I'm going to just talk quickly about a lurker and what I determine a lurker on LinkedIn. I mean, you can be a lurker on any platform, but a lurker on LinkedIn for me is somebody that's on there, they connect with people, but they do nothing. Okay, I have many of them as clients. I've got many of them in teams, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come. So you have a profile, you use it to stalk people, to generate your lead list, your target list, to find names, details, etc. of people in those positions. You may connect with people, and then you've got you just look at things, you might like something occasionally, but that's about it. Now, in that scenario, I would say there's probably not much point in you actually connecting with anybody, because if you connect with somebody and then don't post anything, they're never going to see you again anyway. So what's the point? If you want to use it to gather information, then by all means go for it. But if you're going to start connecting with them, if you're going to if you're going to spend more than 5 minutes on a platform and, scrolling, or scroll hole, we may call it, then generally I would say there's not really much point in you being there. However, if you are prepared to spend 5-10 minutes a day on the platform, then I can guarantee that you will start to see success on the platform when you do it properly. Now, most people are afraid of showing up on LinkedIn because they feel like they're about to pop their head up above the sand. And a client actually used this analogy with me today, and that they're going to pop their head up above the sand, and now they're all exposed. And, it's open for everybody. Now, the thing is, number one, is that not that many people are going to see your first few posts. Okay, you haven't posted in a while. We're going to gently ease you into LinkedIn, into what to post and how to post. Now, businesses will often ask me, do we need to give guidelines? What does that need to look like? And then teams will then say to me, how do I post? How do I know, where the line is? We don't have any guidelines in the business. So what is enough? What is not enough? Now, using an example, so CrowdStrike, we had an issue. There was an outage with CrowdStrike earlier in the year, and we saw LinkedIn go crazy. Now, it went crazy for a number of reasons. So first thing was that CrowdStrike have got a large customer base globally. So they had a number of customers that were sharing their experiences, or we had, CrowdStrike from an apology perspective, or from this is what we're doing to support. And then all of their partners around that were able to give that, their insights and their feedback. But then we saw different types of posts and information going live. So we saw people that, were jumping on it and talking negatively about the experience and about what happened. And then we saw other people sharing insights and sticking up for them and talking about what it was versus what it isn't, and other opinions from that side. And so I would say, I was going to say none of them are right or wrong, but I would say, we never want to publicly humiliate or call out an organization that is going through a difficult time, because you never know when that's going to be you. But also you never know when that's going to come around, and maybe you might need to engage with them in some way, shape or form. And they'll always remember you as the person that did that thing. So I always say, lead with integrity. You never know who's watching. And so all of that for me comes into play. But in terms of how you post and what you're going to share, is it a meme? Is it insights? Is it information? All of that is very dependent on how you want to show up and what's important for you and how you show up. And so from a business perspective versus what you want to share personally, if you are starting to do this, or if you've got a team and you want to start getting them engaged, give them some ideas, give them some inspiration. Now, businesses are expecting their teams to post, but their business isn't posting. That's a challenge because we want to lead by example. But what we don't necessarily need is content from the business for the team to be posting. I want the team to start engaging. I want you to engage and share content that's relevant to you. That's what what you're experiencing and what you're finding that week or that month. I always share about what I post on LinkedIn is very much about what happened that day, what happened that week, what's the topic, what's going on in the industry, what's my experience, what has somebody asked me that's prompted a memory or something that I've done before. It's very rarely sit down, write 12 pieces of content, schedule them and hope for the best. And I find the way that I post and the way that I create content works for me. It takes a few minutes, but it also engages. It also gets the response. It gets the engagement from my audience, from people on the LinkedIn platform. And so a couple of things I've talked before about metrics, etc. So if you want to go and find out more about that, I'll pop a link in the show notes for all of our other episodes on LinkedIn. This one, I want to be more focused on that sales element, personal brand linking back to sales. Now, we know that people buy from people. So first off, we need to show and we need to speak how we would do in real life. If you meet me in real life, I'm exactly as I am right now. I may or may not be in activewear with a dog, but you never know. So for me, I am who I am. I show up in the same way with my clients on a podcast, in a video, in person. I am the same across the board. I don't have a podcast face or voice. I don't have a phone voice. I show up as I am. Sometimes I go a bit more Australian depending on how many people I've been speaking to that week. And I go a bit more English if I've just come off the phone to my mum. So I'm sure anybody that lives in a different country to where they grew up can also attest to that. And so, but we want to show up as we are. We don't want to be somebody else or try and be somebody else. And so building awareness on LinkedIn is really key. Who are you? What do you stand for? What are you interested in? Why did you join that company? What do you find most interesting about your industry? I ran a session for a data center just recently, and we talked about, them showing up on LinkedIn and what they can share about. And the first misconception that we worked through together was that, I don't just want to post and then everyone else is posting. We're all going to post the same thing. Now, that very rarely will happen if we're posting something that's authentically ours, that's based on what we're seeing, that's based on building awareness for us. Now, when it comes to building awareness for the brand, it's very important to be clear on who the brand represents and what that's about. And that may require some alignment with your marketing team, with your team leaders, and really clarifying on how that message wants to be articulated. But in general, as a development, as a personal platform, then I want you to be very much focused on what you're experiencing and what you're seeing. Now, being active and being active with purpose on LinkedIn, two very different things. We talked about lurker and we're talking now about active with purpose. So we can absolutely go onto LinkedIn and scroll, like, connect with a few people, move on. But when we are active with purpose, it means that we are going in there with a goal. Are we going to go in and connect with certain people in a certain industry? Whenever I'm engaging with clients and we're working through coaching or enablement sessions, I will always start off by saying, go and find, let's pick a certain vertical. We do that from our replication of ideal clients. If you don't know what that is, I'll pop a note in the show notes so you can find that one as well. But we go through our replication of ideal clients where we choose a client we're already working with. That is ideal. If we could have 10, 20, 30 more, bring it on. And what we then do is we then look for those types of clients. So that may be industry, customer size, problem. We then focus on that in LinkedIn. Now we can do great search capabilities in LinkedIn, and we then go through and start connecting with them. So that's going into LinkedIn with a purpose. We go and connect with certain industry types, certain industry verticals, sizes, for decision makers, job titles, all of that is with purpose. We then connect with them. We then go back maybe 2, 3, 4 days later. Once we've connected, we send our connection message. Now, being very clear in terms of what you want to do, LinkedIn is a longer journey game. It is not connect, do you want to buy my service? Connect, we've we've got this offering which I think would be relevant. The idea is that we connect, we send a message, the algorithm loves that we've now connected and we're now speaking. It starts to show each other more of our content. So if I'm posting 3 or 4 times a week, they're going to start seeing that in their feed, which is what we want, because it means we're now doing it in the lazy salesperson's way, where we're posting and more people are able to see it. We're then going to go back through, we might add some value, we might share some information, and it's over that longer period of time because everybody is so ready to be spammed and pitched and sold to on LinkedIn that we do need to take it slightly slower. Now, depending on where you are in the world, will depend on how direct you can be. That goes for email, phone call, and LinkedIn. Will depend on how direct you can be without being rude, or how direct you can be without slowing things down or trying to speed things up. So it's about finding the right pace based on what you know about your ideal prospects or customers. And so active and active with purpose are 2 very different things, but being aligned with what you're trying to do is very important. Just like the same as if we go into our inbox and we go send an email, I can get lost in my inbox. My inbox can be chaos. I've got Brooke. She usually makes it nice and clear and clean, but often I can go to send an email and then before I know it, I've reread 7 emails, I've sent a couple of other emails, I've forwarded something else, and I only went in there to send a follow-up email to prospect from the morning, and I've lost 30 minutes. So active with purpose can apply to so many things in your day-to-day as a salesperson, but active with purpose on LinkedIn, I recommend a timer, I recommend pouring yourself a coffee or a cup of tea. And as long as it takes you to drink that, unless you're like me, I've got mine here and mine's definitely going to go in the microwave in a minute. And I'm going to be judged for saying I'm going to put it in the microwave. So we'll see whether that gets picked up. And then we've got how to build a brand. So we've got building awareness on LinkedIn. So how do we create content? Covered that. Active with purpose on LinkedIn. And then how to build a brand. Now, I got asked a question recently, which was, how do I build, I'm laughing because I've got my notes here, how to build a brand without being a douchebag. Now, I hope nobody is offended by the use of that word, but essentially how to build a brand without being an idiot. So when we say that is more so then how are we building a brand without being annoying, without oversharing, without it being too personal? How do we find that balance? And really, that is a great question. It's one that comes with many answers, but I would say be authentically you. Now, there are going to be idiots out there that go, well, this isn't authentically me and this is how I want to show up. But think about who do your prospects and who do your customers want to engage with. If we think about content that is funny, whether you're on TikTok or Instagram, I follow a girl just recently, nothing to do with sales, by the way, and she's called Silly Prune, and she has a horse, and she does post on horse riding and brands aligned to horses and horse riding. And she is hilarious. She is that's just my kind of go to a happy place, watch a couple of her silly videos and move on with my life. But she is showing up authentically her. She's having fun with it. The brands that she aligns with also have fun with it. So if you go and check some of her videos out, these large brands, like well-known brands in the industry, are sharing gifts with her, sending bags filled with books around how to sew because she tore her horse's bridle, and she's bringing that back together. And the reason why I'm sharing this horse story is because that resonates with her people. It resonates with horse people, resonates with people that are not horse people but just enjoy it. And she's showing up in her authentic way. She's funny. She's actually genuinely funny, and she loves horses, and that's her thing. Now, she has a full-time job from what I can see. So this isn't her, creating this business and then going live with it. It's her just genuinely having some fun. So if you didn't need to create leads from this, what would you post? If you want to share information with people that would entertain them, educate them, provide insights, share information, what would you share? And so it comes back to authentically being you, comes back to knowing what your ideal customers, your ideal audience want to engage with. And then it's about showing up and being unapologetically you in alignment with all of those things. And so when you start thinking about what will get the most likes or what will go viral or what will get me this many comments, we lose the goal, which is I want to impact you. I want to have I want to add value to you as a business owner or as a person within an organization, because I believe I can solve your problems. And I'm hoping that by engaging and sharing some information with you, you'll start to see that. So it's that journey piece, but being able to create that brand and alignment is very much for me always driven by what do people want to engage with. If you are going after, if we look at that active with purpose and we're going after a certain vertical of industry, what would they want to engage with? What is it that you are selling or have available that would interest them from an educational or entertainment perspective? Is it a podcast snippet? Is it a video? Is it, I'm seeing more memes come on LinkedIn, and videos which are now being taken from social media, other social media platforms, and being brought on and adding in your own version. And I love that style because I like things that are funny. And I would probably say I'm also quite funny. If I think that, then maybe it's not true. But I like to have a laugh. I don't take myself too seriously. If that's you, post that type of content. If it's not, find a different way to build that brand. And so this then comes back to then, how do we allow our team or your team or you as a team member to create and share authentically and within business guidelines? Now, hardly any businesses that I work with have guidelines. We either create them together or we just say, use the general parameters of being employed, and knowing that usually politics and religion is usually a good place to kind of stay away. Again, it's dependent on the business, it's dependent on your industry, it's dependent on what you stand for as an organization. I have been witness to other organizations prior to working with them that they've had challenges with social media where there's been comments made where they've had to ask for those to be taken down because it's connected to the organization when it actually shouldn't be. So this comes back to get the right people on the team, be authentically you. If you've got a misalignment, then this is now the time to have that conversation when it's there. And then when we start to look at expectations of results, it comes back to, what do you want? Like, what do you want to achieve? What are you expecting from from this type of work? What do you want to get? And so whether that is likes or comments or downloads or connections or analytics of views will depend on what you're focusing on. But my recommendation is always to start off with just consistency of the content. I don't worry about the likes, the comments, the reposts, the shares, the analytics. I just want some consistency. Because if you're starting at 500 connections, let's say, and you haven't posted in a year, then you're going to find that it's going to take you a bit of time to re-engage and get people, knowing that you exist again. But also your connection pool might not be right. So we might have to change that. That might take some time. But once you've got all of that aligned, then I start focusing on the analytics of views. I look at views of post, I look at views of profile, I look at growth within my connections. Because if I can grow connections and post consistently, more people will see me. If more people see me, then they're going to know who I am. And the more that I'm sharing information when it starts to resonate, or when they've seen it that 7 to 15 times from that marketing perspective, they will then start to consider you or think about you when they maybe haven't before. When we team that up with a message or with an outreach off the LinkedIn platform, let's say a phone call or an email, that's also going to have an impact. And so the results for me is down to, what are you prepared to do? What are you going to focus on? And then the results would then either be increased engagement and awareness, warmer leads, increased conversion, increased lead incomes, and the list can go on. But essentially, when I work with organizations that get a team engaged around LinkedIn, when we get a team engaged around creating content, we find that feedback is always, who's creating your content? Well, it's my team, and it's free in brackets. We then get questions around when we're reaching out, or comments around when we're reaching out, that people already know who you are, or they've started to see your content. The things that I have experienced over the years has been that I've walked into cafes or meetings and somebody has asked me if I'm Harriet Mellor. And I'm like, yes, I am. And they're like, oh, I follow you on LinkedIn. I just saw your recent post, or I loved the thing you did on this, or I've been listening to your podcast. Now, again, it's usually locally. It's usually, it's not every day. I'm certainly not, I'm not podcast famous yet. Maybe one day. But I remember one of the examples I got was I was working at a Vitality House, and I was sitting opposite somebody, and I was the one that would, say hello to everybody and introduce myself. And before I got to do that, one of the women who was sitting opposite me said, are you Harriet Mellor? And I was like, I am. And she said, oh, I love your LinkedIn content. I was like, thank you. And I was like, oh, like, what do you do? And turns out she was in digital marketing, did branding. And she had been following me for, I think, about 3 or 4 months, had really liked what I put out and said, look, I'd love the opportunity to find out about how you could potentially help me. We ended up working together for just over 6 months. Now, that was based on consistency, information that resonated with her, being in the right place at the right time, because I could have missed her, by an hour, and this may not have happened on that day, but we were both working at Vitality House, so it would have happened at some point. But you just never know who's listening, you never know who's watching, you never know who's engaging, because often when I do an assessment with customers that have done a LinkedIn engagement, when we've actually looked back at people that have engaged or that have come and they've seen something on LinkedIn, or maybe they've direct messaged or they've emailed, but they've referenced finding them on LinkedIn, we go back and look at the content and we see that they've never liked, they don't follow, that they've never engaged. And therefore, that doesn't mean they are not an ideal person, that we're not doing a good enough job on LinkedIn. It just means that they are watching. They're probably a lurker. They're just checking things out. They're seeing what's going on. And then when it feels right, they Google them. And then from Google, they then put through an inquiry. But that wouldn't have happened without the consistency on LinkedIn. It wouldn't have happened without the value content, education, or entertainment content that lives on the platform. And therefore, we get to know people before we really know them. So I use my YouTube channel, I use the podcast, I use LinkedIn to send people to say, go and look at how I deliver content. Go and listen to me, because if you don't like the way I deliver it, if I don't align with you, your message, your business, I'm not going to be right for you, because I'm not going to change. I am who I am. I think I'm too old now to change. So, for them, it's really about go and have a look and see what you think, because I'd much rather them know that before they reach out, or before we go too far down the line, than go too far down the line and then say, oh, I just don't know if you're quite the right fit. Well, go and check it out first. Go and see what you think. So set those expectations of results, that I would rather focus on consistency than actually what the outcome gets in the first 2 to 3 months. If you can build consistency in those 2 to 3 months, the rest of it will be easier, because then we start looking at what's increased engagement. Now, my little top tip here, and I have talked about this before, but probably more so on my LinkedIn, is that if I share a post with me in the picture, and let's say my dog or one of my dogs, I will get a lot of engagement. Now, that's not to say that I should therefore always post photos of me and my dogs, okay? Because they are not necessarily people that want to buy from me, but they're people that think dogs are cute, that maybe know me personally, or that it's just captured their attention. What we want is, I would rather have a post that doesn't perform as well, but gets me 2 or 3 inbound leads, because I know that that's connected way more than me with a photo with my dog talking about something, whether it's relevant to dogs or not. So be really mindful as to what you're sharing. If you share an update on your business, on how long you've been in that business, what the business is doing, people love to celebrate. That will go off. But don't expect those same results, those metrics in your other posts, because not as many people can engage with that. Everyone can engage with that. Congrats. Well done. Wow, I can't believe it's been 3 years. When you then share an insight or a report or a white paper on something that's really topical, you're narrowing your audience field right down. And we need to make sure that we are aware of that. And then finally, how to support your team with business posts. So if you're a team member, then go and ask your team leader, go and ask your managers, go and ask your marketing team, what is working right now on socials? What's the message? What's the message for the next quarter? And therefore, you'll be able to align. Now, if you've got a team, then supporting them with content will help them, showing them how to use ChatGPT, using examples of how we can create content based on topics you know about. Give them support around creating articles, white papers, information, webinar access, so that they've got something to talk about and share and invite people to. And then give them the time and support to be able to do that. And so if you say, look, guys, every Monday morning, we've got our sales meeting. After that meeting, I just want 5 minutes, 10 minutes where we brainstorm some ideas for posts. We get them set up so they're ready to go Tuesday morning. That might be your focus. That might be all you do. If that's the only thing that you do, you'll start to see success. If you do nothing, then we're going to leave them to their own devices. Now, we can't force, and we shouldn't force, people in the team to go and create content on LinkedIn, but we need to show them, lead by example. We need to show them what is possible on that platform, because I know that consistency within around that 3-month mark and beyond is where we start to really see traction. So if you can build consistency per week in content, you will start to see traction after 3 months. You may see it earlier. When you mix a blend of what you're seeing versus what's going on in the industry versus frequently asked questions, downloads, resources, information, after the 3 months, you can start sneaking in a little post around how people can work with you, a case study, a quote, some information, some feedback, because then you've warmed everybody up, you've started to get people engaging, you're engaging on other people's content, and now we're starting to see traction. Okay, so remember, it takes time. Remember, it's about consistency. The same thing in anything sales or business related is it takes time. We need to focus on consistency and not give up. And we need to align with the language, the messaging, the information that we already know about our existing ideal clients, because that's where we're going to have the most traction. So that episode was full of your building personal brand and sales success to really build awareness in the market. Consistency, we know, is key. If you want some ideas or want to look at how you can build more opportunities through LinkedIn, we have a free 10-day email series, which is called the LinkedIn Launchpad. The link is in the show notes, and you can absolutely join for free today. You, your team, share it with anybody, and that will give you 10 days of 10 mini updates to put into your LinkedIn to either get you to a point where we can build that foundation and then get you to a point ready to start consistently posting. And then following that, we share ideas and insights in terms of what you can be doing month on month to make LinkedIn work for you, to generate leads for you, and to build an awareness and a personal brand that aligns with you and also the clients that you would like to serve. So I hope you've enjoyed this fun-packed, full-packed episode. If you liked this, please let me know. You could drop us a note over on LinkedIn, or you can find out more and access more freebie resources over on yoursalesco.com.
Thank you for tuning into the Sell Like You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and be sure to subscribe to never miss another one. A huge thank you to Vitality House for hosting today's recording, and I look forward to being back into your ears soon.